Hello students. The second video for Introduction to the New Testament means that we are coming down to our midterm point. That means that I will be submitting midterm grades this week. So anything not turned in, I will put a 0 in so that the grade is accurate for the first 2 weeks of the class. That doesn't mean that you're stuck on a 0. If you turn something in late, you can still get points. So I wanted to give you fair warning that, but only by putting 0 in do you actually see where you are, what your grade actually is to this point. Also, I just want to make a comment about what it's like to grade and what I'm sure it is like to read comments made by a professor. One of the things I didn't really like was professors that seemed overly harsh. And sometimes I feel like what I say is, at least comes across that way, but it's not any indicator of what I actually think about you. And you need to know that. I had a professor in seminary in a theology class, and we had to write papers on various theologians. And I read several books, parts of others, of a major theologian from a period of history, and did this massive paper and turned it in and got a D. And I stormed up to the professor's office and said, "What's the deal? I read this. I know this guy's theology." And he said, "I know you do, but you didn't write a theological paper. Let me tell you how to write." And he did me a great favor. He actually let me rewrite the paper and get a much better grade. But he explained how to write and how to put a certain theologian in a proper kind of perspective, and I really needed that. So what I do is make corrections, but also just try to give you perspective. Understanding the New Testament is such a huge part of your ministering, teaching, living with Christ. And so I would like to have you read about 15 books during this course to give you broader perspective. But what I can suggest that you do, because there's not time for that and you couldn't absorb it that fast, is to really read and understand, grasp what our main textbook is saying. It's good. It introduces you to things that you might not have ever been introduced to before. Not that you have to agree with everything, but you need to understand what's being said. And you need to have your perspective broadened, because so often we think, well, we already know this because we were taught, but we were taught in a narrow perspective. Doesn't mean there's not much value in what you've been taught. There is. But there's also much value in others' perspectives that sometimes we've been taught, well, they're liberal, or you got to discount them because they don't have a good perspective, or they don't have the truth, or whatever your group's terms are for other people. But what we discover is, even when we don't agree completely with somebody else, there's much to be gained. And I wish I could give you perspective from, a whole lot of authors and traditions. But I do my best to try to say, you need to expand your thinking in this way. So I hope that you can perceive that I'm not just trying to be harsh, but I want you to really do the assignments. I want you to really grasp what you're supposed to be writing about so you get the most out of it. I want you to come out of this experience deeper, with a deeper understanding and a much broader perspective and a much deeper love for the Jesus that it's all about and the church that he came to work in and through. So blessings, and I pray for you to be able to grasp and do good work and not be stressed, but just learn for the remainder of this class. So you'll be hearing from me in written form after this, but I'm certainly glad that you're taking the course, and I encourage you in your study.